The rand has weakened quite a bit since this morning. We are starting to see commodity prices also shedding some ground. JSE slightly to the negative, so battling to find some form of direction. Do you think that the rand is stalling because we are waiting for the State of the Nation address later on this evening?
Yes, the rand bears still seem to have the upper hand. Despite broad-based dollar weakness and strong commodity prices, we still see the rand weakening. Elevated food prices and fuel prices as well have increased the likelihood that emerging markets could possibly embark on monetary policy tightening in the coming days.
Let's focus further on the State of the Nation address, Shireen. Do you think that usually the rand doesn't really respond to any verbiage or any comments coming through from the president? Do you think that this time round, because the big focus will be on unemployment, that we could just see a little bit of rand movement with regards to this?
I do think that we could see some of the rand movement. I think that the rand has breached the R7.14 to the downside repeatedly, so there's renewed scope for the rand bears to retest the R7.23 level over the coming days. So I don't think they're going to take too much direction from the State of the Nation.
All right, let's focus. Mining and manufacturing production set to be released later on this morning, and that's coming through for the month of December. Output increased by 9.6% year on year in November. Are you expecting a buoyant number this time round?
Yes, we are expecting a buoyant number to come through. On the back of the fact that mining production would have benefited from higher commodity prices, particularly gold and platinum. So we do expect the mining production numbers to end the year off on a positive note.
Let's touch on the Bank of England set to conclude its meeting today. It is something we have been talking about all week in anticipation to see how they're going to deal with the threat of inflation and with GDP growth of minus 0.5% for the fourth quarter of last year. What are you expecting on that front?
We don't expect that the Bank of England to raise rates at this stage. We see a 1 in 5% probability of them raising rates to 0.75%, but that's the minority scenario. Our core scenario is for rates to remain unchanged at 0.5%, with little inflationary pressures coming through for them to have increased that rate.
One of the big issues that has come to the fore when it comes to the UK, and the reason that they are starting to see inflation, is because of a much weaker pound. That could spell trouble for the likes of South Africa, that is on the path of weakening its currency, and perhaps high inflation coming to the fore as well. How does that change the rates and inflation scenario in the country?
Our inflation scenario is pretty much well grounded and contained. We don't see inflation to raise above the 6% target level this year. We see it to oscillate between the 3 to 6%, with only some upside pressures coming through in next year. And for that reason, we do not see South African Reserve Bank hiking interest rates at this stage. We only see rates increasing towards the first quarter of 2012.
Shireen, also just turning our attention to yesterday's data. We had trade conditions out yesterday, also just really showing that we have seen a modest improvement as well. Overall, the South African economy seems to be in good stead. We mentioned the unemployment figure also coming down somewhat. Do you think the rand, with regards to all of this news that has come through, is going to be on a significant weakening bias as we go forward to 2011, or do you think that we could see a blip for now and perhaps a bit of positivity feeding through later on?
I think that the weakening bias is probably a blip for now. If we do see the mining and manufacturing data coming out in slightly weaker, we could see the rand weaken a little bit further during the course of the day and for the rest of the week. However, the weakening bias is probably likely to be very slight over the course of this year.
Shireen, also touching on some of the comments made by Fed Chairman Bernanke yesterday, saying unemployment has come down somewhat, but clearly not enough movement to see any withdrawal of stimulus. Any movement coming through from the US that could perhaps signal we might see inflation feeding through, and perhaps that $600 billion that was pumped into the economy late last year might be withdrawn?
I don't think that's going to be withdrawn. I think that that's going to continue, but I think they have to strike a fine balance with the 3.7 trillion budget. And I do think that the US economy is still on a very long path towards recovery, and we could only possibly see the unemployment rate decline further during the course of this year as companies gain further confidence to hire consistently over the remainder of this year.